You ever have one of those days where your entire life feels like a sitcom with a terrible plot twist? That was me. Except my episode didn't end with a laugh track. It ended with my marriage collapsing like a bad magic trick. It all started with Ava's big night. She had been practicing for this ridiculous community theater play for months, some pretentious drama about betrayal and inner demons. The kind of thing where people stand in dramatic lighting and say things like, "The past is but a shadow," lurking in the corridors of my soul. Real deep stuff. She had the lead role, which meant I had to sit through 2 agonizing hours of whispered monologues and people staring meaningfully at the ceiling. But hey, I was a supportive husband. I showed up, clapped in the right places, even brought her flowers. The moment the final bow was taken, the entire cast swarmed the stage, all dramatic hugs and exaggerated praise. Ava was glowing. I hadn't seen her this happy in, well, a while. A long while. Then came the after-party. Now, I'm not a party guy. Give me a couch, a beer, and a bad crime documentary, and I'm set. But Ava insisted. "It's my night, Lucas. One night. Please." Fine. I went. I even put on a button-up shirt, which for me is basically a tuxedo. The party was at some director's house. One of those guys who wears scarves indoors and talks about artistic integrity like it's a cure for cancer. The house was packed with actors who thought way too highly of themselves, and people who nodded dramatically after every sentence. I found a spot near the drinks table and focused on surviving. And then, the moment. A guy, mid-40s, slick hair, the kind of suit that screams "I lease a BMW I can't afford," stood up on a chair, clinking a wine glass. The room quieted. "I just want to say," he started, his voice thick with "I think I'm important" energy. Tonight was an absolute triumph. But let's be honest, the real star of the show, on stage and off, is Ava. A ripple of laughter. Applause. Ava gave a little "oh stop it" wave. But the guy wasn't done. And of course, I have to personally thank Ava for all the long nights, the private rehearsals. More laughter. Louder this time. My stomach twisted. "What? And let's just say," he continued, smiling directly at Ava, "the things she's taught me go far beyond the script." Oh, oh wow. Ava didn't look embarrassed. She didn't even look confused. She was laughing. Laughing. The room clapped. Clapped. I stood there, surrounded by these oblivious theater people, trying to process the fact that my wife's affair had just been publicly celebrated. Like it was a clever plot twist in their little tragic drama. I took a sip of my drink, nodded to myself. So that's how I find out. Not through a secret message. Not through a hidden receipt. Nope. I got a standing ovation. You know how sometimes you hear something so ridiculous that your brain just refuses to process it? Like when a celebrity gets caught in some scandal, and their publicist says something like, "This does not represent who they truly are." That's how I felt standing in that room, surrounded by people who were apparently totally fine with the fact that my wife's biggest achievement wasn't her performance on stage. It was whatever she had been rehearsing off stage. I stood there, holding my drink, watching Ava laugh along with the joke about her private rehearsals, and thought to myself, that's a new way to humiliate me. The best part? No one was even looking at me. Not a single person turned to see how the actual husband felt about this little announcement. I might as well have been a potted plant. I set my drink down and clapped along with everyone else. Why not? If they were going to put on a show, I might as well enjoy it. Ava, still basking in the attention, finally turned in my direction. Maybe she expected me to be beaming with pride, or maybe she had completely forgotten I existed. Hard to say. But when she saw me clapping, her smile faltered just a little. I made sure to give her a big thumbs up. She blinked. Just once. A tiny flicker of something crossed her face, but then she recovered, laughing again as someone pulled her into a hug. At that moment, I had 2 choices. I could storm out like some tragic husband from a bad TV drama, or I could stick around and see what other surprises the night had in store for me. Easy choice. I grabbed another drink and found a seat. If I was going to watch my marriage explode, I wanted a good view. People buzzed around Ava, complimenting her performance, gushing about how brave she was on stage, how she brought so much raw emotion to the role. No kidding. The woman had a lot of experience pretending. I tuned most of it out until a guy, mid-50s, corduroy blazer, glasses that screamed I teach philosophy but nobody respects me, leaned in and said, "Your wife really has a way of pulling people in?" I took a sip of my drink. "Yeah, she's got a gift." "Absolutely," he said, nodding like we were sharing some deep intellectual moment. Her monologue in Act 2 was incredible. The pain in her voice, the way she delivered those lines about betrayal, it felt so real. I smiled. "Funny, right?" He frowned. "What do you mean?" I gestured toward Ava, still deep in conversation with her fellow performers. "Just saying, she really commits to her role. Method acting, you know?" He gave me a confused look, but before he could dig any further, someone called his name, and he wandered off, probably to find a student who actually cared about whatever he had to say. Then came the next fun part. The drinks kicked in, and people got loose. I started overhearing snippets of conversation. I mean, Ava was just so dedicated to this project. She practically lived here these past few months. The chemistry between them was insane. I mean, you saw it on stage, but off stage? Phew. Honestly, I don't know how they kept it a secret this long. I would have cracked way sooner. That last one? That's the one that got my attention. I turned my head ever so slightly, pretending to be focused on something across the room. But my ears? Oh, they were locked in. Two women, maybe late 30s, theater types, flowy outfits, dramatic hand gestures, the kind of people who talk about energy in the room, were deep in conversation. But they did, and that's what makes it so romantic. Romantic. Oh, that was rich. The other woman nodded. It's like a modern-day love story. Forbidden, but undeniable. Exactly. The kind of thing that only happens in stories. But it's real. I took a slow sip of my drink and turned slightly toward them. "Mind if I ask?" I said, smiling. "Who we're talking about?" They both looked at me, startled, like I just materialized out of thin air. "Oh, just," one of them started, but then she really looked at me. "Wait, you're Ava's husband, aren't you?" "That's what they tell me," I said. A long pause. I could see them calculating how much I knew, how much they had just revealed. I decided to help them out. "Sounds like she really connected with someone during this production," I said. "I'd love to hear more." The first woman let out a nervous laugh. "Oh, it's just, gossip. Theater talk. You know how it is." "Oh, totally," I nodded. "So, who's the lucky guy?" They exchanged glances. A silent conversation passed between them. And then, from behind me, "Lucas." "Ava." I turned to see her approaching, still smiling, but there was something new in her eyes. Not guilt, not fear, annoyance, because I was ruining her night. "Hey, babe," I said, all casual. "I was just chatting with your friends here. They were about to tell me the name of your co-star in this romantic behind-the-scenes drama." The silence that followed was delicious. Ava let out a little laugh. "Oh my God, Lucas, don't be weird." "Weird. Right. Because I was the problem here." "Come on," she said, reaching for my arm. "Let's get some air." I let her pull me aside, because I wanted to hear what excuse she was going to pull out of thin air. She leaned in, lowering her voice. "Are you trying to embarrass me?" That was a fun question. "Embarrass you?" I repeated. "That's funny. I thought maybe I was the one being embarrassed tonight." She sighed, like I was a child who just didn't understand the nuances of the situation. "You're making it weird," she muttered. "You mean asking basic questions?" I asked. Like, who was that guy making a speech about private rehearsals? Her lips pressed together. "Lucas, I don't want to do this right now." "That's funny," I said, "because I didn't want to do this either, but here we are." Her eyes flicked to the people nearby. "Can we not cause a scene?" I nodded. "So the problem isn't that you might have been sleeping someone else. The problem is that I might make it awkward for you." She exhaled sharply, then finally gave in. "Can we talk about this at home?" I tilted my head. "That depends. When we get home, will I find a bunch of your theater friends there too? To keep up the illusion?" She shot me a look, but before she could say anything, someone else walked up. And when I turned to see who it was, well, that's when things got really interesting. If there's one thing I've learned in life, it's that when you think things can't possibly get dumber, life laughs and says, hold my beer. Ava and I were locked in our little standoff, her trying to get me to drop it, me enjoying watching her squirm, when someone else decided to join the conversation. Lucas, a voice said behind me. Long time no see, man. I turned, and I swear to you, if this was a TV show, this was the moment where the dramatic music would kick in, because standing there, looking way too comfortable, was Ian Peterson. Now, you don't know Ian. Lucky you. Let me introduce him. Ian Peterson is one of those guys who peaked early and has spent every second since desperately trying to convince everyone he's still relevant. The kind of guy who went to the same high school as you but still shows up at reunions acting like he's the guest of honor. The type who has a firm handshake but no actual job. Back in the day, Ian was that guy. The one who always had a new business idea that was definitely going to make him a millionaire. The one who was networking, but never actually working. The one who somehow knew every bartender in town but never picked up a tab. And the most important detail? Ian Peterson is Ava's ex. Not just any ex. The one I used to hear way too much about when we first started dating. Ian was such a free spirit. Ian always knew how to have fun. Ian and I had such a crazy connection, ex. You know, the special one. And now, somehow, here he was. At the party. Smirking at me like this was some kind of friendly reunion. Ava tensed up next to me, which was already interesting. Because if I had invited an ex to a party without mentioning it, there would have been a scene. But apparently, when she does it, I'm just supposed to roll with it. I gave him a nod. Ian. Man, he said, shaking his head with a little chuckle. I was hoping I'd run into you here. Were you? Ian? Were you really? Ava cleared her throat. I didn't think you'd make it tonight, she said, her voice way too tight for someone who had definitely already known he was coming. Ian grinned at her. I wouldn't miss it. Had to come support my favorite leading lady. I turned to Ava. Favorite, huh? That's a big title, considering all the private rehearsals she's been having. Ian let out an exaggerated laugh, like we were all old pals joking around. Yeah, man, I heard that speech. Bold move, right? I stared at him. He held my gaze for maybe half a second before looking away, scratching the back of his neck. Interesting. Ava exhaled sharply. Lucas, can you not do this here? I ignored her and tilted my head at Ian. So, how do you two know each other? Ian blinked. What? You and Ava, I said. I mean, obviously, you dated. But I mean recently. How'd you two reconnect? Ava shifted beside me. Ian scratched his neck again. Finally, he shrugged. Oh, you know. Small world. Yeah, I said. Because the world actually isn't that small. And yet, somehow you, a guy who, last I checked, didn't even live in this state anymore, just happened to show up at my wife's play? Ian glanced at Ava, like he was waiting for her to step in. She did. Lucas, please, she muttered. Not now. I looked between them. The way she didn't deny anything. The way he looked a little too satisfied with himself. And then, a memory hit me. 6 months ago, Ava had taken a sudden trip out of town. A theater retreat, she called it. A creative recharge. Something about immersing herself in the craft. I hadn't thought much of it at the time. Because why would I? She was an actress. She did artsy things. I had work. She had her weird hobbies. It was fine. But now, looking at Ian's stupid face, it all clicked. I let out a small laugh. Oh, wow. Ava's jaw tightened. Lucas. I turned back to Ian. That retreat she went on. You were there, weren't you? His smirk faltered for a fraction of a second. I mean, yeah. We crossed paths. Crossed paths, I repeated, nodding. Sure, that makes sense. Ava sighed. Lucas, it's not what you think. Really? I said. Because what I think is that you and Ian here reconnected on that trip. And based on how twitchy you both look right now, I'm guessing you didn't just spend that time catching up over coffee. Ian held up his hands. Hey man, I don't want to cause any trouble. I laughed. Oh, Ian, you're not causing trouble. You are the trouble. Ava grabbed my arm. Lucas, can we, please, talk about this somewhere private? I pulled my arm back. Oh, Now we care about privacy? That's rich, considering half this party seems to know more about your personal life than I do. Ian took a small step back. I should probably. Yeah, I nodded. You probably should. Ava gave me a look. Lucas, can you just be reasonable for a second? Reasonable? I said. Ava, I just found out my wife's ex has been lurking in the background of our marriage, and the whole room knew before I did. You'll have to excuse me if I'm feeling a little unreasonable. She exhaled through her nose. This is exactly why I didn't want to bring this up tonight. That one got me. I laughed. Oh, you mean you plan to bring this up? When? At our next anniversary dinner? Hey, honey, can you pass the salt? Oh, also, I've been hooking up with Ian. She groaned. God, Lucas, do you have to be sarcastic about everything? I blinked. You just found that out? Ian took another step back. Okay, yeah, I'm just gonna. Great seeing you, Ian, I said, giving him a mock salute. Hope you enjoyed the show. Seems like you got a lot of behind-the-scenes access. Ava's face turned red. Lucas, enough? I folded my arms. So, anything else you want to tell me? Any other guest stars I should know about? Or is Ian here our big finale? She opened her mouth, closed it, and that's when I knew. This wasn't even the worst of it. The thing about betrayal is that once you see it, you start noticing all the little details you missed before. The moments that seemed harmless, the coincidences that didn't feel important at the time. But hindsight is a cruel thing. It connects the dots in a way that makes you feel like a moron for not seeing the picture sooner. I stood there, watching Ava scramble for damage control, her ex Ian trying to slip away like some third-rate conman caught in the act, and I made a decision right then and there. I wasn't going to argue. I wasn't going to fight. I wasn't even going to make a scene. I was going to make Ava's life very, very inconvenient. She wanted a performance? I'd give her one. I straightened my shirt, took a slow breath, and let a calm smile settle on my face. It was the kind of expression that people assume means everything's fine, but in reality, it means someone is about to learn a very painful lesson. I turned to Ian, who was still doing that awkward half-step backward thing, trying to blend into the background like an unpaid extra. Ian, buddy, since we're all being so open tonight, let me ask you something. Does your wife know you're here? Dead silence. Ava inhaled sharply. Ian's entire body tensed up. And there it was. The missing piece. I didn't even have to wait for confirmation. His face told me everything I needed to know. Ava wasn't just revisiting the past. She had somehow managed to get involved with a married man. And he had been stupid enough to show up here like this was some kind of celebration. I grinned. That's what I thought. Ian looked around, probably checking for exits, but I wasn't done with him yet. Hey, Ava, I said, my voice light. Since you're so committed to transparency now, why don't you tell everyone how long this has been going on? Ava's hands clenched into fists. Lucas. No? Not ready to share. I clicked my tongue. That's funny. Because your friend over there. I nodded toward the woman who had let the secret slip earlier. She seemed very informed. The woman, who had been standing nearby pretending to be absorbed in her drink, suddenly became very interested in something across the room. I turned back to Ava. Here's the thing, I said, my voice calm. I don't actually care what you do anymore. You could run off with Ian tonight, and I'd sleep just fine. But what I do care about is what happens next. Ava crossed her arms. What's that supposed to mean? It means I'm done being the clueless husband in this little act of yours, I said. And since you had no problem parading this in front of me, I think it's only fair I return the favor. Ava's face paled. Lucas. But I was already pulling my phone out of my pocket. Hey, Ian, I said, tapping the screen. What's your wife's name again? Ian nearly choked. Dude. Ava grabbed my wrist. Are you serious right now? I looked her dead in the eyes. You embarrassed me in a room full of people. Did you really think I'd just take that and go home? She let go. Because she knew. She knew. Ian swallowed hard. Lucas, man, let's not do anything crazy. I smirked. Oh, don't worry. I'm feeling very sane right now. Ian's eyes darted to Ava. You need to handle this. Ava's lips pressed together so tight they turned white. Lucas, she tried. Her voice lower now, more controlled. This doesn't have to get ugly. Ugly? I laughed. No, no. You already did that part. I'm just making sure everyone gets a good look at it. Ian made a noise in the back of his throat like he wanted to say something, but knew anything he said would only make things worse. Good instincts. I turned my phone around, showing them the screen. See, Ava, I'm not even calling. I'm texting. That way, Ian's wife gets to read the message at her own pace. No interruptions, no yelling. Just facts. Ava's breathing was sharp now. Lucas, stop. Or what? I raised an eyebrow. You'll lie to me again? Please, Ava. That ship sailed. Ian ran a hand through his hair. Look, man, can we talk? Privately? I pretended to think about it. Nah. And then, just for the hell of it, I hit send. Ava's entire body tensed. Ian actually stepped back, like he was expecting the message to explode on impact. And just like that, the real fallout began. Ian's phone vibrated almost immediately. He pulled it out, looked at the screen, and visibly lost all color. Ava turned on me, eyes wide with fury. You had no right. I cut her off with a smile. Oh, no, see, I had every right. Because while you were off having your little private rehearsals, I was the stupid who trusted you. Ian was already moving toward the door, his phone still buzzing. I need to. Yeah, I said. You do. Ava turned back to me. Do you have any idea what you just did? Yeah, I said, crossing my arms. I leveled the playing field. She stared at me, breathing hard. You're so careful, I said, my voice still pleasant. Wouldn't want you to say something you can't take back. Again. She clenched her jaw so tight I thought she might crack a tooth, but she didn't say another word. Because this time, she wasn't the one in control. I gave her one last smile. Enjoy the rest of your party, Ava. Then I turned and walked out the door. And for the first time in a long, long time, I actually felt good. Ava always thought she was the smartest person in the room. She had this way of tilting her head when she spoke, like she was giving you the privilege of hearing her words. A carefully rehearsed little act, all charm and controlled emotion, designed to make people believe whatever she wanted them to. Too bad she ran into someone who wasn't in the audience anymore. I walked out of that party feeling lighter than I had in years. Not just because I had exposed her little theater of lies, but because I wasn't done yet. See, revenge isn't about yelling or breaking things. That's for people who let their emotions do the thinking. No, real revenge is quiet, calculated, and most importantly, permanent. Ava built her life around appearances. Her image mattered more than anything. She wanted to be adored, respected, admired. And that's why taking that away from her was going to be so much fun. I started with something simple, our joint finances. Ava had always been terrible with money. She liked the illusion of being responsible, setting up budgets she never followed, making bold financial plans that were about as stable as a house of cards in a wind tunnel. The only reason she hadn't gone bankrupt playing successful actress was because of me. She made decent money doing her little theater gigs. But let's be honest, community productions weren't exactly bringing in six figures. The real paycheck? Mine. The house? Mine. The car she drove? Mine. The savings account? Mostly mine. And that's why step one of my plan was removing her safety net. The second I got home, I logged into our bank accounts. Ava, bless her oblivious heart, had never really understood online banking. She had access, but she only ever checked when she wanted to complain about how much I was spending on pointless things like home repairs or, bills. So she wasn't going to notice the transfers right away. I started moving money into a private account, my private account, slowly, in amounts that wouldn't set off alarms. It took less than 20 minutes to ensure that, financially speaking, Ava was going to have a very rude awakening soon. Next up, the house. Ava liked to think of it as our house, because in her mind, everything I had was automatically hers. But fun fact, she wasn't on the deed. Why? Because when we bought it, she had this grand idea that one day, she'd buy her own place with her money. Her independence plan, she called it, which meant she had zero claim to it now. I drafted an email to my lawyer. Short, simple. Hey Mark, Need to start the eviction process for someone living in my property. Will call you tomorrow with details. Sent. Ava was going to have to pack up her one-woman show and find a new stage. Step 3. Her reputation. See, it wasn't enough for Ava to lose her comfort. She needed to lose the admiration she thrived on. And lucky for me, I had plenty of material to work with. Theater people love drama. On stage, off stage, anywhere they can get it. And Ava? She had handed me a Broadway-worthy scandal on a silver platter. I went back to my messages. Opened a group chat she wasn't in. One filled with her theater friends, directors, and actors who all loved gossip almost as much as they loved pretending they didn't. And I typed, "Hey everyone, just wanted to say congratulations again on a great show tonight." And an extra shout out to Ava, who truly embodied her role, especially the part about betrayal. Amazing method acting, really. And to Ian, for his stellar supporting role, though I imagine his wife might not be a fan of his performance. Just thought everyone should know the real story behind the show. Cheers. Sent. Ava had worked years to build her little reputation in that world. She loved being the center of attention, but only on her terms. She controlled her narrative carefully, always making sure she looked like the dedicated actress, the misunderstood artist, the woman who gave everything to her craft. Now, she was about to be the hottest topic in town, for all the wrong reasons. I sat back and waited. It didn't take long. My phone buzzed within minutes. Ava. I let it ring. Then again. And again. She even left a voicemail, which she never did. I played it on speaker, letting her panicked voice fill the room. "Lucas, what the hell did you do? Call me back. Now." "Oh, Ava. You should have thought about that before you turned our marriage into an improv performance." I ignored the call and went to bed. The next morning, I woke up to a flood of texts. Ava's name was all over my screen, along with a few unknown numbers, probably her friends trying to do damage control. But the best one? An email from Ian's wife. Short, simple, to the point. "Thank you. I had no idea. Let me know if you ever need anything." I smiled. Checkmate. Ava called again. This time, I answered. Her voice was raw, like she had been crying. "Lucas, what is wrong with you?" I yawned. "Good morning to you too." "Don't," she sucked in a breath. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" "Yeah," I said. "I set the record straight. You ruined my career." I snorted. "Ava, please. You were in community theater. Relax. You think this is funny?" "A little, yeah. You need to fix this. Now." I laughed. Actually laughed. "Fix it? Ava, I didn't break anything." "You did." She inhaled sharply. "I made a mistake." "No," I said, my voice turning cold. "You made a choice. A lot of them. And now, you get to live with them." Silence. Then, quietly, "Where am I supposed to go?" Oh, there it was. The real fear. She had finally realized what I had done. I leaned back, enjoying this moment. "Not my problem, Ava. You can't just." "I can." I cut her off. And I did. A shaky breath. "Lucas, please." She wasn't used to this. She had spent years knowing that no matter what, I'd always be there. That I'd always be the one cleaning up the mess. Not this time. I smiled. "Enjoy your new life, Ava. I know I will." And then, I hung up and blocked her number. The show was over. And I was finally free. The first morning after cutting Ava off was quiet. No buzzing phone, no passive-aggressive texts, no calls from her friends trying to act like they weren't completely aware of what was going on the entire time. Just silence. It was nice. I made coffee, sat down, took a deep breath, and realized this was the first time in years I wasn't waking up to a mess I had to fix. Ava had spent our entire marriage treating me like an understudy in her show, a background character in her life. And now, the show was canceled. I checked my email. Ian's wife had sent another message. Update, he's gone. Trying to salvage what's left of my dignity. Hope she was worth it for him. I smirked. Something told me she wasn't. Ava had built her whole life on the idea that she could always land on her feet. That no matter what, there'd be someone there. Me, mostly. Who'd make sure she didn't actually suffer consequences. But now, that safety net was gone. The first sign of her real panic came later that afternoon. My phone rang from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. A few minutes later, the transcript popped up. Lucas, it's me. I know you blocked my number. Look, I just need to talk. Can you please call me? Please. This is serious. Serious? Now it was serious? I deleted the voicemail. An hour later, an email. Lucas, I'm at the house. The locks are changed. Did you really? I stopped reading and deleted that one too. Then, about 2 hours later, another email. Okay, I get it. You're mad. You want space. But I need to come inside. Just for a little bit. I left some important things there. Can we just be mature about this? I stared at the screen. Ava always thought she was above consequences, that she could talk her way out of anything. But what she wasn't used to was being ignored. I didn't respond. Another email. Lucas, where am I supposed to go? Oh, Ava. Not my problem. A few days passed. Her theater people officially turned on her. Someone had leaked, okay, fine. Maybe I had nudged it along, the details of her little adventure with Ian to their group's social media page. The post had since been deleted, but the damage was done. People in that world loved to pretend they were above drama. But the second they sensed a sinking ship, they jumped off like rats. I knew because I saw one of her old friends post a very public status about how she had no idea this was happening and couldn't believe Ava would do this. Oh sure, Diane. Sure. Then came the real kicker. My lawyer called. You're going to want to check your email, Mark said, amusement in his voice. I opened it. Ava had sent a formal request for temporary residence in the house. As in, she had officially asked for permission to come back. I laughed so hard I had to put the phone down. Mark, I said, wiping my eyes. She cheated on me in public, and now she wants to come back? Yep, Mark said, clearly enjoying this. What's your response? I grinned. Declined. A few more days went by. Then, an email with a new tone. Lucas, I get it. I was awful to you. I made a mistake. But you and I both know we had something real. I don't want to throw everything away. I love you. Oh, there it was. Ava had officially entered the bargaining stage. I took a sip of coffee, then typed out my reply. Ava, I love the person I thought you were. But that person wasn't real. And I don't waste my time on fiction anymore. Good luck. Lucas. Sent. Nothing for 3 whole days after that. And then, one last email. Fine. You win. I hope you're happy, Lucas. You were always good at making people feel small. Maybe you'll finally enjoy your life now that you don't have me holding you back. Have a nice life. I smiled. Oh, Ava. I already am. And just like that, she was finally out of my life. Thanks for watching. Rate the story in the comments. Subscribe to the channel